social slime, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one makes countries laugh to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgive. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social side, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear, fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one leaves countries, lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah, coming back around again.
Okay, welcome to the show. Today is April 28th, and I'm your host, Ron Stevens, for the next hour. You're listening to UCY.TV. And I don't know where you're living, but it ain't warm where I'm living. And David Suzuki was supposed to be on the show tonight, but he's got his head stuck up the globalist ass and couldn't make it. Let's see. This is interesting. Let's get right at this. What do we got here? 80 people arrested in Ontario for a child exploitation investigation. Dozens of people are facing hundreds of charges after a massive province-wide investigation into child sexual abuse in Ontario. Provincial police said the months-long investigation netted 80 alleged offenders who are now facing a total of 274 charges, adding more arrests are expected. The bulk of the charges relate to sexual assault, child pornography, and exploitation, but police said several counts also concerned drugs and weapons. OPP Chief Superintendent Don Bell said Thursday the investigation involved collaboration with the RCMP, Canada Border Service Agencies, United States Homeland Security, and 26 municipal police forces across Ontario. He said the wide range of ages and jurisdictions involved in the probe shines a light on how pervasive and devastating the problem is. The most fundamental responsibility of any society, it says, is to protect our children. Every child has the right to be nurtured and to be safe, Bell told a news conference. Every image of child pornography represents a child victim. Every trading or transmission of that image represents a re-victimization of that child. Well, let's stop right there for a second. Every child that is in the public school system in Ontario is being abused. Every single one of them. Every child that is being vaccinated in this country or any other country is being abused. Every child is being indoctrinated to believe in global warming / climate change or any other UN doctrine is even close to reality is being abused. It's just freaking sickening. The most fundamental responsibility of any society is to protect their children. Every child has a right to be nurtured and to be safe, Bell told a news conference. And of course, all the police or at least all the police chiefs and the police, because they get sent out on UN details to be trained in international policing, which is there to abuse the children and everybody else. This clown has the audacity audacity to say that the fundamental responsibility of any society is to protect our children. Our children are being taught in the schools that they may not be a male or a female. They may be something else. They, in fact, can, if they think about it, be something else. They're not encouraged to be what they are. They're being encouraged to be something other than what they are. That's child abuse. Early sex education, telling children or explaining or basing it on the idea that everyone from birth is a sexually active or sexually responsive entity is child abuse. Putting in transgendered washrooms all over the place is child abuse. Taking something is absolutely not normal in your society and normalizing it through the political systems, the church systems, and the police systems and the school systems. And the biggest indoctrinators of all is like a hockey, where the hockey scouts go. Only these are the so-called intellectual scouts. They hang out at the UN universities where they are properly indoctrinated so that they will implement the multiple UN agendas, and the Zionist agendas, which will drive us towards world government and world religion, both of which are designed to harm the children. And this, of course, is from the Globe and Mail, one of our main newspapers. They don't seem to understand what's going on. Are they just that stupid? No, they're all part of the agenda. They're part of the indoctrination process. From its inception in August 2006 to March 2016, Ontario's provincial strategy to protect children from sexual abuse and exploitation on the internet has completed 32,808 investigations and laid 11,408 charges against 3,310 people, police said. During that period, 870 child victims were identified in Toronto and another 173 internationally, OPP said. The 80 people charged in the latest investigation range in age from 74 to a youth who could not be named under the terms of the Youth Criminal Justice Act and span the province from Ottawa to Windsor. Police said they identified 20 alleged victims over the course of the investigation who have been referred to community supports for help. The child pornography probe also overlapped with incidents connected to human trafficking, allowing police to release 9 minors who had been forced into the sex trade against their will. Those children included 14, 15, and 16-year-olds, police said. In one incident flagged by Toronto police, a 16-year-old girl was allegedly befriended by 2 men who lured her with the promise of lucrative work, then shuttled her to hotels around the city to perform sexual services. Police alleged the men also sexually assaulted her themselves in a vehicle. They are now facing a total of 15 charges and appear on the list of those arrested in the province-wide sweep, which involved executing 174 warrants. The OPP indicated the number of people charged is expected to rise, adding they had made additional arrests on Thursday and expected more in the coming days. But Bell said tackling the problem would involve more than simply laying charges. We cannot get ourselves out of this phenomenon, he said. Our community partners, that's UN lingo, Zionist lingo, our community partners are extremely important. Our educators are extremely important, he says. We have to create awareness, and as parents, we have to take ownership of our children. Well, the state owns the children. So how are the parents who are owned by the state supposed to take ownership of their children? Good question. Yes, the parents do have to take ownership of their children. They got to get their children the hell out of the public school system ASAP. They got to quit going to these dumbass pharmaceutical white coats who are just whacking their kids with this ridiculous number of vaccines. Now, one vaccine might not hurt them, but trust me, these satanic sons of bitches from the UN and these Zionists are sitting in their labs concocting these things so that you can't track it necessarily back to the vaccine. So if one vaccine piled on the next 30 vaccines may down the road sterilize the child, cause cancer in the child if it doesn't cause autism early after birth. And the RCMP and the OPP are out there like knights on white horses. Piss off to the bunch of yous. Bunch of yos, man. Now here. I'm going to see if I can get let me see if I can dig out any comments to this story. They'll probably make me ill, but I'm going to look for them anyway. Just bear with me here for a second. And see what we come up with, if there is any comments on this thing. If my computer don't freak out. All comments are closed, it says. Wait a minute here. What's going on? Got some ball-headed RCMP or OPP here. Let's see. Do we get any comments out of that? I don't see any comments there. Comments closed. No doubt. They probably got whacked with some comments they didn't want to hear about or didn't want to print. Anyways, we go from stupid to even stupider. Get your kids away from these people. Huh? Please? Vaccinating boys against HPV could cut healthcare costs, study suggests. All of these studies suggest something, okay? And that's right out of the Rockefeller Foundation and the UN, of which Rockefeller had a big hand in putting in place. And they use suggestions. That's what the scientists and these studies always suggest. They don't tell you anything, because they don't nail nothing down. They make suggestions, and then the newspapers, the schools, the churches, the sports people, the entertainers all normalize the suggestion. That's how it works. Now, HPV is a cervical cancer vaccine. Now, I studied this HPV vaccine a long time ago. Let's see, back in 2007, actually. And when you do the numbers, the chances on what the HPV was good for cervical cancer, because there's different cervical cancers out there, what the HPV was targeting was a very minor chance ever of anybody getting that particular cervical cancer. And when you ran all the numbers, somebody taking the vaccine would probably have a better chance of winning the big lottery twice than ever, or getting hit by lightning twice than ever getting this particular cervical cancer. So it's a cervical cancer vaccine, and now they wanted to give it to the boys, who maybe feel like girls. Who knows? Welcome to Bizarro World. Anyways, a new study suggests giving boys the HPV vaccine could cut healthcare costs over the long run. The researchers used the mathematical modeling to estimate the amount of the effect of giving HPV vaccine to 12-year-old boys to prevent cancers of the mouth and throat. This is a cervical cancer drug, for crying out loud. But somehow a study suggests that giving 12-year-old boys a cervical cancer vaccine will somehow prevent cancers of the mouth and throat. And I know when I walk uptown, it's devastating. All I see is young boys, 12 years old, 12 to 14-year-old boys wandering around complaining about their mouth and throat cancers. The work suggests, of course, if all the 12-year-old boys in Canada had been vaccinated in 2012, between 8 and 28 million might have been saved because of, or I can't even say that, cancers averted in that group. The types of human papilloma viruses that cause cervical cancer are also responsible for some esophageal cancer is a form of cancer that is on the rise. Why is that cancer on the rise? Could it be from the vaccines that the little boys took when they were young? Is that possible? Where else are you going to get all these cancers from? Is it normal? Of course not. Is it happening? Supposedly. Why is it happening? That's the question. But a senior vaccine researcher questions the findings, saying the study design chosen wasn't the right one for testing for this kind of question. Currently, Prince Edward Island and Alberta offer HPV vaccines to boys as well as girls. On Friday, Nova Scotia announced it will follow suit in the fall. Now, just run over to the WHO, the World Health Organization. If you don't find it there, head for UNESCO. If you don't find it there, head for the Rockefeller Foundation. You will find it. You will find the documents linking this garbage together here. Gradually, bit by bit, perhaps people are thinking that it is a good thing to do because there's no reason why we shouldn't protect the men also, says Dr. Lillian Siu, a medical oncologist at Toronto Princess Margaret Centre. Dr. Siu is one of the senior authors of the study, and she doesn't see where there's a problem with this. Why shouldn't we protect the men from cervical cancer, Caitlin? When are we going to stand up and quit putting up with this garbage? Anyways, the authors admit the mathematical model they used did not take into effect what's known as herd immunity, the protective effect on the entire population of having a significant portion of the people vaccinated against the given pathogen. In this case, that means the researchers did not factor into their calculations how vaccinating girls would affect the HPV risk faced by boys. Already, research elsewhere has shown rates of genital warts and some HPV-related cancers in men are dropping in the wake of introduction of public programs to vaccinate girls. The belief is that the number of girls and women who are protected against HPV rises, fewer of these viruses will circulate, so many males will get indirect protection. That group protection may not be as pronounced for the community of males who have sex with other males. I don't even believe I'm reading this garbage. I don't believe this garbage is in the newspaper. But there it is. It's not possible to accurately assess the cost-effectiveness of vaccinating boys without factoring in the impact of the program for girls, says Natasha Crowcroft, a vaccine expert at the Public Health Ontario, who was not involved in this study. Now, if she's from Public Health Ontario and you put in Dr. Natasha Crowcroft and then stuff that into the WHO, I'm sure you'll pop her name up. The herd effect is so overwhelmingly important, you can't leave it out of any analysis, Dr. Crowcroft, who is the chief of applied immunization research for the agency. Yep, you'll find her at the WHO. I can pretty much guarantee that. When you've got 50% uptake in girls, it makes more sense to immunize the boys because then you increase your chance of getting herd immunity. Now we're getting 80% uptake in Ontario, girls. It makes less sense to add the boys in it to me, Dr. Crowcroft says, though she acknowledges there is still the question of how to protect males who are gay. Well, why don't you turn them into transgenders? Maybe that'll work for you clowns. She insists her critique of the study doesn't mean she opposes giving the vaccine to boys, noting her son who was vaccinated. That's a child abuse. So now we have a doctor who's in charge of some medical health in Ontario who's abusing her child and telling you to abuse your child. Anyways, it goes on, but costs and benefits need to be weighed. if we're using public funds, then we have to make careful choices because we're always taking money away from something else we could be doing, like leaving the money in the people's pockets who earned it. How about that? The study, which was published in the journal Cancer, was written by scientists at the Prince Margaret Cancer Center, Cancer Care Ontario, and the Center for Addiction and Mental Health in Ontario. Right. Now, I have no use for scientists. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I have absolutely zero use for scientists. The scientists are the new priests. Whatever the scientists say is accepted by government, okay? Who is up to their eyeballs in this game we're playing to get the world government, world religion, and to totally screw everybody up. And the ones they don't screw up, well, I mean, they want them dead anyways. So, this is pathetic. I have no use for scientists. I have no use for computer modeling, and I have no use for any newspaper that would print this crap without some kind of a caveat. This story may seem bizarre to most people that read it, something like that. Okay, and herd immunity, a herd of humans. Holy crap! There goes a herd of humans. Better put a red light walk over there, so the herd, and train the herds to stop at the crosswalk. And I mean, come on. We're men and women. We're not herd animals. Oh, but we are, because we're humans. They've designated us as humans. And who did that? The scientists. The scientists turned us into humans. And according to the UN, a human is a derivative or a offspring or an offshoot or an evolved thing from an ape. And they went out of their way to jam that through people's heads leading up to the Second World War. First World War failed. Okay, people still had this idea of sovereignty and creator and liberty and freedom, and that's why the Zionists didn't get their State of Israel at World War I, nor did the League of Nations take hold. So in between World War I and World War II, they hammered in hard the public school system and removed everything that stopped the League of Nations and the State of Israel being created in the First World War. So they've got people to basically accept that they're animals. You're just another animal. So you're no more important than a toad. You're just another animal. And that's where we're headed with all the international law. You're just another animal. And, we've already had animal rights in the courts trying to get personhood for animals. Well, give the animals the personhood, turns them into a legal entity. I don't want to be a legal entity. I just want to be a man. Anyways, here's some comments. Dr. Crowcroft deceives about herd immunity. The calculations assume a stagnant herd. That is no entry into the herd, and no one at risk leaves to enter another unprotected herd. Reality is around 80% of Canadian girls are immunized, but every year approximately 150,000 females move to Canada, either as legal immigrants, refugees, or illegal immigrants. Most of the countries with low immunization rates is where they come from. Most don't receive vaccine when they come here, so roughly every year the immunization drops 1%, and so on and so forth. Let's see what happened over in Japan. Japan pulled the recommendations for the HPV vaccine due to side effects, including death. Cervical cancer is highly avoidable and treatable if a woman gets her regular pap smears. No, I'm not anti-vaccine, says MATA. Well, you ought to be, but see, this is just political correct nonsense, right? You know, you can't say what's on your mind. But we do have to have a vaccine, but do we have to have a vaccine for everything? What about prevention? Research this very carefully before trotting your kids into the doctor's office. Well, way to go. Who paid for this study? Asked Randy. Good question, Randy. Go to the Rockefellers, go to the UN, go to UNESCO, go to the freaking World Bank, go to the International Monetary Fund. You'll find out who funded it. You find out why they funded it. He goes on to say, looks like pharma company is convincing the people to shed another 300 from each pocket. Andrew from Toronto says, just another marketing study. And Tom Smarty Pants, that's a good tag, Tom Smarty Pants. And those costs will be non-existent if they are dead. Dangerous vaccine. Cue the pro-vax, anti-vax, gnashing of teeth. I find it very strange that the cost savings from boys not getting cancer is the main concern. What about the cancer and the deaths? A close friend just went through HPV-related throat cancer. He appears to be okay, but it ain't pretty. But can HPV vaccines cause HPV the way measles vaccines can cause measles? So anyways, we'll go through this. The conversation that these people are having here, herd immunity only occurs when a minimum of 92% of the population is immunized. You can't get herd immunity just by vaccinating women. And you also have the issue that vaccination does not automatically lead to the protection antibodies. In most cases it does. Therefore, to get 92% immunization across the population, you need at least 96, 97% vaccination rate. Well, keep the needle the hell away from my arm. Well, this might be Dr. Demento. I like the way the Globe and Mail a couple of years back had its headline, HPV vaccination urged for Canadian girls, women, and explained it was to help women to prevent genital warts and cervical cancer. But when it comes to the males, well, the headline is vaccinating boys against HPV could cut healthcare costs. Lovely. Apparently, our journalists belong to the camp that believes sugar and spice and all things nice. That's what little girls are made of, snips and snails and puppy dog tails. That's what little boys are made of. It's like the flu shot a few years that was pushed as the only way to survive the global epidemic a few years ago. My neighbor's kids got a slower mentality since then. They think the shots did it. Beware the sweaty palmed lab coat. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, it's really pathetic. It really, truly is pathetic that these things even end up in the paper. But it's the part of the paper's job, you know, as Rockefeller said back, I think in 99, I want to thank, 40 years ago. And he said that in 99. So, that's like almost 60 years ago. He thanked the newspapers for keeping their promise all these years, because without that promise, we had never been able to push our programs forward, whatever what it was. So the media, who pushed windmills, who pushes the vaccines, who pushes transgenderism, who can't wait to get to the gay pride parades, and so on and so forth. Never do the newspapers bother with truth. There's nothing in it for the other side in truth. And that's just the way it is. What other kind of nonsense we got going on around here? I actually wrote a letter. I saw a thing last night in some of the more local news around here, and well, let me just see what else I can find. But anyways, some MPP, obviously conservative because the Liberals or Democrats of the United States, has a petition out bitching about the cost of electricity in Ontario. And I love this stuff because the Conservative Energy Minister and the Premier were all hooked up with Ken Lay at Enron, putting up the program that would eventually destroy our electrical system and drive the price up to the point through manipulation and nonsense and lies to where people are trying to figure out whether they're going to eat, pay the rent, or pay the hydro bill. But these conservatives don't seem to have any capacity to understand how this came about. They don't seem to have any history of the fact that their party, which would be the Republicans of the United States, were up to their eyeballs in this scam. So I wrote the writer of that piece and explained it to her and sent some emails there from the Enron files, where our minister and everybody was going down to play with Ken Lay, and set up this scam. All the newspapers involved in it, the TV stations were involved in it, the public TV, so-called public TV stations were involved in it. Just like Rockefeller said, thanks for staying quiet, boys. Did any of these papers or TV station expose that Enron was playing, or Enron was puppeting the minister and the premier of the province? You know, Mr. Lay, we're from Ontario. I'm the premier, Mr. Lay, and that there over there, that guy, he's the Ministry of Energy, and Maurice Strong, well, you know him, yeah. Well, you know, his godson appointed him back in 92 for him to come and fix our electrical system, which, by the way, wasn't broken. And well, Mr. Lay, can you help us? Because you guys seem to be very good manipulators of energy, and you're in the windmill business. Could you help us in Ontario? Hey, no problem, boys. Why don't you fly on down to Houston and we'll set something up? Yeah, I'll pay for the plane ticket. I know you guys don't get paid much in politics up in Ontario. I mean, it's just freaking nuts. People have to somehow wrap their minds around the idea that all government is corporation. All politics is corporate. The legal system is corporate. You are a corporate entity. Okay? You were stolen from your mom through lies and deception when you were born. You were made surety for the debts of your state or your country. Well, actually, you're surety for both. You're surety for all government debt, regardless if it's at the local level or at the federal level. You're on the hook for it. Who else is going to pay for it? So every dollar of tax you pay, they're using it to destroy you with. That ain't real bright. Why would we put up with that? And we have to wrap our brains around some of these realities here. You know, thankfully, more people are waking up every hour now. I mean, it's really starting to rock and roll, and that's good. And the more people that wake up, the harder they push. and the more ludicrous they look. And there's a video here, news video. The lasting legacy of Ottawa's reprehensible treatment of gay public servants. Okay, now this is the Jewish. You got to understand that as well. Let's see if I can find something else that's going to make me throw up here for the next little bit. Let's see. What the hell? What National Ontario unprepared to battle an opioid crisis, Dr. warns. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. The opioid crisis. What the hell is an opioid crisis? Oh, okay, I think I get it now. Maybe. I'll find out. A group of physicians and public health officials in Ontario is calling on the provincial government to implement emergency planning measures to address the spike in overdoses linked to illicit fentanyl. Ontario is unprepared for an influx of illicit fentanyl and other toxic opioids, warns a letter signed by more than 200 physicians, medical officers of health and addiction and harm reduction organizations. The letter addressed Premier Kathleen Holy Crap Is She Gay and Health Minister Eric Hoskins says the toll from the opioid, I don't know how to even say it, this is opium, right? Based stuff, I guess. Crisis in Ontario is poised to rise sharply given the presence of non-pharmaceutical bootleg opioids, specifically bootleg fentanyls in both powder and pill forms in several Ontario communities. The letter follows a Globe and Mail investigation that found that Ontario, like other provinces, Ontario is not taking adequate steps to stop doctors from indiscriminately prescribing highly addictive opioids. I don't know how to say that. To treat chronic pain, illicit fentanyl, largely a product of organized crime, has its roots in Canada's abuse of prescription painkillers. Well, organized crime, this is what kills me. Who is the organized crime? Where did fentanyl come from? Didn't come from the streets, it came from the pharmaceutical labs. Who is the organized crime? Your government is the organized crime. Your government is what's organized. And it is a system of criminality. Period. But people read this stuff, they go, oh, yeah, those street dealers. Well, you can't go to a doctor without getting a prescription. That's why I tell people don't go to the doctors. If you go to the doctor, he's going to find a problem. And his little pen there just wants to start writing something. I don't know how big a kickback they get on this stuff, or they're just bent in the head and don't know what the hell they're doing. But they're tied tight to the pharmaceutical business. And the pharmaceutical business is tied tight to profit. And so you want to be careful how close you get to the medical system. The British Columbia declared a public health emergency this month after a surge in drug-related overdose and deaths, but the scourge of fentanyl has rapidly moved east. In Ontario, several communities have sounded the alarm, wee-oo, 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 in recent weeks about a spike in overdose from street drugs that appear to have been laced with fentanyl. Dr. Salvaretta, It said the Ontario government needs to get the rescue medication naloxone into the hands of everyone who is at risk of an overdose. This is great. So we got another drug to get into the hands of everyone who's at risk of an overdose. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry loves this shit. The government's current Naloxone program is limited largely to distributing the drug to public health units and community organizations that manage needle exchange programs. All of this stuff, again, is UN Zionist begun. All of the chaos in our world, it comes directly from there. And it's all based on the idea to destroy people, to destroy society, and to destroy nations. And everyone that people have been conned into believing is there for their benefit is exactly doing the opposite. They're all puppets, all players for those who want world government and world religion. They created the money. They have the money. They just print off whatever the hell they want. They want a study conducted. They find themselves some sort of professors or scientists who are always eager to collect some cash. And these people write whatever they want written, and they do whatever studies they request to be done. And the papers play out the results. Study suggests it's possible. So there isn't a newspaper that I'm aware of, except the one we're trying to get going, that is going to tell you the truth. Not the general public anyways. I mean, a good researcher can always find the truth, and it's getting easier all the day because once you track this stuff for a while, you know where to go look. It's really quite sickening. I mean, our society, so-called society, is in tatters. Everybody's fighting with everybody else. Everybody's been indoctrinated into one thing or another. Nobody has any moral compass left, just wandering around like a bunch of these so-called zombies, you know, protesting this and protesting that and promoting this and promoting that. In general, have no overall clue of what the hell's actually going on. And the paper prints it. When they need a reaction, the paper prints it, the TV broadcasts it. And I'd like people to make some videos of them burying their TVs or blowing their TVs up or torturing the damn thing maybe out in the backyard, you know. Torture that damn thing. But kill it. You know, people say, well, I just watch to see what's going on. You watch that thing, my friend, you are going to get screwed over. I mean, that's like that's like an excuse of an alcoholic or something, because that's what it is. You get addicted to TV. You get addicted to this garbage. They know it. And they program you with it. They normalize things for you. Okay? And whether you realize it or not, it's done through osmosis. It's actually hypnotism. They hypnotize you. You know, there's a bigger hypnotized group than politicians. That's one screwed up mess of people. Anyways, I put this, I don't know how that's going. I don't know if anybody's throwing rocks at me yet or not, and I really don't care, but I just put a little piece up here on Facebook, and I mean this stuff because it's true. Okay? All of the chaos in the world today is a direct result of the UN Zionist plan for world government and world religion. From the drugs street and pharma drugs, the vaccines, the chemtrails, the Muslim migration, multiculturalism, wind and solar farms, global warming / climate change, wars, GMOs, and let's not forget our beautiful friends at the LGBTQ group. All of these and more are designed to divide and conquer, destroying people, societies, and nations. The media, schools, universities, churches, politicians, sports, and more are used as the indoctrination process. World War I was a mission to create the League of Nations and the State of Israel. But it failed. World War II was a mission to create the United Nations and the State of Israel. It was successful. And world government is now breathing down our necks. Both the UN and the State of Israel, make no bones about it, are satanic. They are our adversaries. If you look up adversaries, you will find the word Satan. Your court system is an adversarial court system. Just like both the UN and the State of Israel are satanic, just like those who brought us World War I and II, killing hundreds of millions of innocents in the process. World War III is a psychological, spiritual war that must be won if the Satanists are to be stopped. Now, those Satanists want, in order to save the planet, they have to cull the herd. Okay, so they talk about herd immunity. Prince Philip talks about culling the herd. You are the herd that they wish to cull. And through their modeling, they suggest that a proper population, a sustainable population for the Earth, this little blue dot they describe it as floating around in space, they believe, their studies suggest, that a sustainable population for the Earth is no more than 2 billion people. That's the top end. It goes down to 500 million. But the top end, the most that they believe the Earth can handle safely is 2 billion. So the same clowns, the same groups of people, these satanic dogs who killed so many millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of people in order to set up their global government and the State of Israel. I mean, the fact is they did kill hundreds of millions of people to get what they wanted. And that was the UN and the State of Israel. Next stage, which we're in now, is the culling of the herd. So this idea that this isn't what they're interested in, that this is all tinfoil stuff and this is all conspiracy theory, for anyone that believes that, shove off. You're an idiot. So we got a problem. We got a huge problem. Protesting to your government official ain't going to fix the problem unless maybe you're all standing there waving a noose. That might get their attention. But they're so indoctrinated and so committed to what they're doing, you ain't going to stop them with a protest sign. All you got to do is see what they're doing. You know, when I look at the universities, that's where most of this money ends up at, the universities. All of this indoctrination funds, all of this suggestion funds, all of this study funds. You know, and when I look at the universities, it makes sense. You know, when you put it's called universities. Okay, so you capitalize UN at the start of it. And you know that you've got the indoctrination centers, the major indoctrination centers, the indoctrination centers where the scouts go to find out who's really indoctrinated. And then they pull those people and they offer them funds. Oh, you're so smart. You know, we were wondering if you could write us a paper. Okay? We'll flatter them a little bit. We'll stroke their ego. Now they're hooked. This is where all this crap comes from in the media and that, in the schools and everywhere else. Anyways, World War III, of which we're in and have been since World War II ended. Actually, we've been in, well, can't put 3 before 2. But this whole thing was planned out a long time ago. So World War III is a psychological spiritual war that must be won if the Satanists are to be stopped. And they are Satanists. You know they're Satanists because they're earth worshippers. They do not go by the word of the Creator. They want you to worship the creation, which is ass backwards. We know from their past deeds they are amoral. Their past deeds show that they're amoral. The deeds they're doing today show that they're amoral. And they do not care about their fellow man. 2 words, and I bring this up because this is the book that Elizabeth took the oath upon. 2 words not found in the King James Version are human and legal. Both of them are color of. We were warned what to expect if we allowed ourselves to be deceived. And this is what we got for it. Because we were deceived. Too many people continue to be deceived. God created man and gave him law. Man created humans and enslaved them through a legal system. Big difference. Huge difference. I am no fan of religion. I have about as much use for religion as I do for scientists. Both are used to deceive, to defraud, to indoctrinate, to divide, to conquer. So I have no use for religion. But also know I'm not an animal. And they say, well, there's no evidence of a creator. True. Except when you look out your window or you go for a walk along a river. Equally, there's no evidence of a Big Bang. There's no evidence that you somehow evolved from an ape. As one comedian, when I used to have a TV long time ago, stated very prophetically, except she used the word monkeys. If we evolved from monkeys, then why is there monkeys? Good question. So the way I look at it, I got a choice. I'm either an animal or there's a creator. And I'm going with the latter. And I'm going with the word as law. I'm going with the fact that I was created a man, not a monkey. And that I was given dominion over the animals and the fishes and the trees and the resources. But see what they did when they swung you over and made you a human, and made you a legal entity, a corporate entity, surety for the corporations. They turned you into an animal. If they didn't consider you an animal, they wouldn't be referring to you as a herd. Prince Philip wouldn't be talking about culling the herd. These are very, very sick people that have control of the reins in this world. And we have to deal with that somehow. Anyways, as far as I'm concerned, the only road to peace and freedom, of which we have not known, is to get on the right road. If you get on the right road, you will defeat the Satanists. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You will defeat them. And we will get to peace. And we will get to freedom. But running around all separated and all fighting amongst each other and arguing about this and that and the other thing will not do it. You are doing their bidding when you're involved in that crap. Just get quiet, understand the reality that we're living in, and make a simple choice. Simple as that. And we will beat these dogs into the ground where they belong. Otherwise, we lose. And I don't want to see this herd cull come about. It said God created man, told him to go forth and populate the earth. Those who turned you into an animal and enslave you through the legal system are telling you the exact opposite. We're going to cull the herd. Because apparently the planet that the Creator created won't hold the people, and these people have taken control, and they now are playing God. That's a dangerous game. And they mean you harm, and their past deeds show and prove that they mean you harm. So, it's your call, people. And like I said when I end this show, I don't get involved in religion because I got no use for it. And I'm not any kind of a thumper. I just look at my choices. I know one has enslaved me, and I want one is there to cause me harm. I'm taking the other one. Anyways, we're out of time. Thanks for listening. Let's see, this is Thursday, so Saturday night will be over on Revolution Radio from 10 to midnight. And then Sunday, like to catch up with Mike Wall. Renegade Tribute. We're out of here.